I want to welcome all of our participants who have joined us this evening. I know we have a lot of students who have been admitted into accounting and finance. So we are going to do our best to answer all of your questions tonight. What I want to do first is introduce all of our panelists. And here at the Krannert School of Management, we really think of ourselves as a family. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself as well. I am the Associate Director for Undergraduate Recruitment at the Krannert School of Management. I have been at Krannert for about 8 years and working in undergraduate recruitment for about 6 years. I enjoy cycling, I enjoy reading, I enjoy traveling internationally to visit my daughter who's lived abroad for about 8 years. And I'm going to ask all of our panelists to answer a question about one of their favorite things. And as I was considering that question, it reminded me of a conversation I had with an admitted student. He was asking me if we had many parks or green spaces around campus. We do. And one of my favorite things to do during COVID, when we've had to social distance, is to meet a friend of mine at Happy Hollow Park. That's just a few blocks off of campus. They have some wonderful paved walking trails where you can really spread out and enjoy the wooded area. So Happy Hollow Park is one of my favorite places. And if you come to campus, I hope you'll get a chance to see that. So Professor Janes, I'd like to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your area of expertise and the classes you teach in accounting at Purdue?
Well, sure. I am obviously an accounting professor. And before I went to grad school and got a doctorate and went into academia, I worked for one of the big four accounting firms, and I did auditing and forensic accounting for them. And then, since I became a professor, I've done a little bit of research on fraud, and I'm fascinated by fraud. And so I study fraud a lot. And then I teach here at Krannert some graduate courses. And then in the undergraduate program, I teach auditing, intermediate accounting, and a couple of the introductory classes as well.
So Professor Janes, I don't want to embarrass you, but I do know of a video where you are being handcuffed. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that video.
Sure. So the IRS Criminal Investigative Division is actually a very effective law enforcement agency. Everybody knows about the FBI and agencies like that, but the Criminal Investigative Division of the IRS is really top notch. But they have a program where they will come to universities and do a simulated fraud investigation, let the students run through a fraud investigation and end up, making an arrest and everything. And so when last time we had them here, it's been a couple of years, but last time we had the IRS CID here to run this simulated fraud investigation, I was able to be one of the bad guys. And I got arrested at the end. And yes, there were pictures taken. But
well, I'm sure that's a really nice exercise for students to see how that runs in real life. And I'm glad to hear it was a simulation. I thought that was the case. So thank you for clearing that up. Good to know. Professor Fascio, could you please tell us about your areas of expertise in finance and the courses that you teach here at Krannert?
Of course. So my area of expertise is corporate finance. So how corporations assess investment decisions, financing decisions, payouts to shareholders. And in particular, I focus on international finance. So decisions from the perspective of corporations who operate internationally. A bit like Troy, I actually work a bit on illegal activities, especially corruption and corporate political connections. Obviously, everything that is illegal is particularly exciting.
Yeah.
I actually got caught by the police. That was not a joke, driving 98 miles per hour. They seem to be surprised, but given me being raised in Italy, it seemed to be quite uneventful.
I understand that you are an avid golfer and a soccer fan.
Yes, I used to play soccer in the Italian league, but that was in the previous millennium, so quite a while ago. I like to play golf. I do golf, not well.
Do you have a favorite course? I know we have several nice courses close to campus.
Yeah, I play a bit everywhere. I'm a member of one of the courses, but I like playing everywhere. Like or dislike, most often get upset.
It can be a frustrating game for sure. Dom, our senior in finance, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing on campus, some internships, what your plans are after graduation?
Of course, I'll try to keep it brief. Good evening, everybody. Depending on where you are, I'm pretty sure most of us are on Eastern or Central. So good evening. Hope everybody's doing great. My name's Dom Shortino. I am a senior from West Chicago, Illinois, and I am studying finance. And I also have minors in business economics and communications. So I've definitely been around the block, not only at Krannert, but also in Purdue. In addition to the coursework, I am an executive in a couple of organizations here on campus. I'm the president of the Management Ambassadors. I'm also the treasurer / co-founder of the Law Club. And I played on the Purdue Club volleyball team for a bit here. So I've been pretty much all over the place, running myself ragged, but it does keep me out of trouble. So that's what's important.
So Dom has been here for 4 years. He can answer all kinds of questions. And I think he would even talk about the freshman 15 later, if that's a question you all have. Dom has some personal experience.
Yeah, it's a little higher than 15, but for now, we'll let the people think it's that.
Kalei, you are a senior in accounting. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and internships and what you've been doing on campus?
Yeah, so my name is Kalei. It's actually my 3rd year at Krannert, but I am graduating this year in accounting. I also have a concentration in data analytics, and next fall I'll be entering the master's in accounting program here at Krannert as well. So not ending my stay at Krannert just yet. On campus, I've been really involved in the Purdue Accounting Association. That's one of my favorite clubs here. And then some internships. I got to work as a cost accounting intern after my freshman year for a truck manufacturing company. And I just wrapped up a part-time audit internship with Crow. So nice that that's over. I have a little bit more time in my schedule again.
And you're heading off to another internship here in a month or two. Yeah.
Yes, this summer I'll be doing another audit internship with Deloitte. So very excited for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Kalei. And Andrew. Andrew is our sophomore. So he's been around Purdue for about 2 years now, majoring in finance. Can you tell us a little bit about your activities and your part-time job, Andrew?
Yeah, so nice to meet you guys, everybody, virtually. My name is Andrew Mays. I'm a sophomore studying finance with a concentration in data analytics. Like Mary said, I'm involved in quite a variety of things. So management ambassadors, I'm also involved in, I'm the treasurer for the Society of Minority Managers. I'm also a peer consultant at our Career Services Center here at Purdue. I've done a variety of corporate programs. I've had an internship as a freshman. I've also done 3Ks competitions. So later on in this meeting, if you guys have any questions about those things, feel free to pop those in the chat.
Great, thank you. So I do see that we have some questions coming in, and feel free to add some questions to the chat or the Q&A. I think Megan is inviting you there to ask us some questions. The first one is about what are the major differences between upper division and lower division in finance. So Professor Faccio, would you like to talk about the difference between upper division and lower division, and then we can have our finance students join in as well. We've still got you muted.
Yeah, I need to mute myself because I have cats in the house, so they make a lot of noise during their fights. So in finance, we do have some courses that are a bit like required. So financial management is a key class that everyone pretty much needs to take any follow-up elective. And in order to take financial management, they need to take accounting first. Obviously, knowledge of accounting is fundamental to evaluate any finance decision. But then pretty much every elective that follows after 310 can actually be taken without many further prerequisites. This depends a bit on the instructor, depends on the course, and can change over time. Like I have taught international financial management for many years now, sadly. I mean, sadly, because it speaks about my age. In the past, I used to have a requirement of students taking macroeconomics. This was changed over time. We are trying to be as accommodating as possible to the students, while at the same time making sure that the students can learn and understand the material as we make progress. So in general, I think the biggest distinction in finance is the core class 310 versus everything else. And we do have a variety of courses that we offer. Those change over time, in part depending on the instructors that are available. Like next year, we are having 2 more faculty members joining the group. So hopefully that will result in more classes, new electives, although we don't know yet. For many years, we have offered upper electives in investments management, so portfolio decisions from the standpoint either of individuals or fund managers. And we have offered an upper elective in corporate finance, advanced corporate finance, so where corporations choose how to allocate their capital and how to fund their decisions. I have taught international financial management for a while. So there we take the perspective of a multinational financial company, possibly even an individual like us, who's maybe planning to make an international trip like Mary. And might face the risk of the price of the foreign currency increasing unexpectedly. So the dollar would be losing value. And so in the class, we think about how to predict these possible changes in the exchange rates, what we can do to mitigate these fluctuations, what companies can do, and how to evaluate investment decisions when we have this type of complications, as well as tax complications, or maybe complications such as a foreign country increasing the taxes all of a sudden, taking over private property and so forth. So international finance has also been one of the classes that we have offered for many years. Other classes include venture capital, mergers and acquisitions, fixed income, futures and options, which are more recent offerings, as well as financial modeling, which has been in our offerings just for a few years.
Sounds like quite a variety. That's great.
Yeah, we have quite a few classes that we offer, and the hope is obviously to increase even further going forward. Obviously, the number of students has increased quite a bit in the last few years, actually quite a lot. And so we hope that to the extent that we can get additional faculty, we can increase our course offerings as well.
So, Andrew, I was wondering if you could talk briefly about how students complete lower division, because as a sophomore, you're probably about done completing lower division or nearing that, and then how you transition into upper division. What is that like going from lower division to upper division?
Yeah, so as a lower division admitted student, so I was admitted into lower division, you have to take what we call MAI courses, and these are like core management courses you have to take. They include Calculus 1, micro and macroeconomics, introduction or intro to accounting, and like a communication credit. And you have to average a 3.0 or higher in all those classes, and then you are admitted into upper division. So those classes were very manageable, but it's definitely a transition, especially from a senior in high school or, in high school to, the college workload is a transition. So that was probably my difficulty, was like, getting used to the workload, planning ahead of time, studying, like actually sitting down and studying for exams, because the exams in high school and college are very different. But I would say that transition it's very doable and it's very manageable. Utilizing the professor's office hours is one thing I did freshman year a lot, and that really helped me out with my grades, and I was able to successfully get into upper division.
Great, thank you, Andrew. So Professor Janes, someone else is asking about, the difference between lower division and upper division classes in accounting as well. So if you could talk about what is required for lower division, and then maybe the variety of courses in upper division in accounting.
Sure. I think in general, the lower division courses are very similar across all the majors. That's mostly your introductory courses in accounting. We have introductory financial and managerial accounting, and all majors have to take those. And then once you're admitted into the upper division, then you start taking more of the accounting courses. So usually in accounting, you have to take intermediate accounting, which is in 2 semesters, Management 350 and Management 351. And after you've taken the first one, Management 350, then you're pretty much open to take all the other, any of the other upper division courses. So in accounting, we have upper division courses in taxation, in auditing, international accounting, advanced financial accounting, advanced cost accounting. So there are, some of them are required, some of them are electives, but a variety of classes that you can take once you've taken the introductory courses.
Great. Kalei, I am going to ask you, as a senior who's about to graduate in accounting, if you had a favorite upper division accounting course. And also we have a question about study abroad. I know you did study abroad, so if you could just segue into your study abroad experience after you talk about your favorite upper division class.
Sure. Well, Professor James is on the line, so auditing has definitely been an enjoyable class so far.
Good answer. Good answer.
know my audience today. I think another one that I really enjoyed was taxation. I didn't go into it thinking I would really like it, but I ended up learning a ton and did my own tax return this year and felt like I understood what the questions were asking. And so I think getting into upper division has been exciting because you get out of those beginning accounting classes that you need for that foundation and start to be able to see these real world applications to your accounting knowledge. And so I've really enjoyed those kind of classes as I've moved through. Study abroad, I got to go to Dublin for 4 weeks after my freshman year. Purdue offers a ton of 4-week and 2-week summer programs through Krannert, which is just awesome. You get to take classes that apply directly to your degree plan. They're classes you need to graduate. I think Professor James mentioned that he taught introductory accounting in Rome in the summer before. I went and took a management information systems class, and then also got to take a class taught by some Irish professors while I was there. And so it was a really great experience to get a global perspective on business while also getting to have some fun abroad.
Thank you, Kalei. I'm seeing a question about what steps does a student have to do to take a concentration in data analytics? So you all can chime in and make sure I'm doing this correctly, but the way I understand it is that you will have enough electives in your curriculum that you can easily take those courses required for data analytics. I believe it is a simple function of talking with your academic advisor and telling them that you want to do a concentration in data analytics, and they will make sure that you fit those courses into the electives built into your schedule. I don't know, do any of our students on the panel, are any of you pursuing data analytics as a concentration? Andrew is. Have you taken any courses yet in data analytics?
I have not. Starting next semester, I already did my advisor meeting, and I found that I have one overlapping class with my concentration in my major, so I only have to take 3 extra classes, so 9 credits of data analytics to obtain my concentration. So I'm going to spread that out through my junior and senior year. But yeah, that's kind of how it's looking right now.
Nothing special you had to do for that? No other requirements?
No, there's no other requirements. If you're interested in pursuing a concentration, your advisors are there to help you, and they'll figure out a plan for you to be able to graduate on time and complete those credits.
Great, thank you. Lots of questions about learning communities. Our 3 students on the panel, have you ever lived in a learning community? As a freshman, did you guys go into a learning community? No, I don't know if our professors have ever been involved with the learning community. So we don't have a lot of personal experience with learning communities, but I do know that Krannert has a variety of learning communities available to our students, including Women in Business. IBE has a learning community, Larson Leaders Academy, and there's a Data Mine learning community as well. In addition, there are learning communities open to all Purdue students that are kind of focused on different interest areas, from music to community service to ROTC. So kind of you can find entrepreneurship is another one. You can kind of find something you're interested in and live with other students who have that same interest and kind of form those early friendships as a freshman. So I would encourage you to go to the Residence Hall site and look for the learning communities, and there's lots of great information there for you to explore. Okay, question about internships. How do you navigate internships? Are internships required to graduate? How does Krannert help students obtain internships? So I am going to throw this out here for all of you. We can see when you unmute yourself, and we'll just let the first person talk and others can join in as well, but don't be bashful.
Sure, I can start if that's all right. Sorry, I beat you through it, Professor James. But
No problem.
I'll open them up. I'll warm up the crowd for you. You can knock them dead. I've been lucky enough to have 2 internships. My first one was in between my sophomore and junior year. I headed out to New York to be with a company called eHealth Technologies as an executive and legal intern. So I had a major in finance, but I've also always had this passion, this affiliation towards law. So I felt as though I could apply what I've learned in Krannert so far, even though I was only a sophomore, still into this role. And I was able to pretty effectively. Within the first 2 weeks of being there, I was assigned a pretty hefty project working on Excel access and employee bonuses. So it wasn't any menial or remedial tasks. They were actually giving me meat and potatoes of what a business needs, even if it was a little bit lower on the priority list. And then after that, the following summer, I was originally supposed to be working in the financial district of Chicago with Fitch Ratings. They are a credit rating agency, one of the best in the world. But unfortunately, it got canned, but it stayed virtual. So for 4 weeks, I was working remotely, 45 minutes outside of the city in my house. And that was pretty enriching as well. And that really saw me being able to apply what I learned in the upper division courses. And the ones that I've taken were, not entirely applicable, but they were still very helpful. I took financial management, corporate finance, mergers and acquisitions, venture capital at that point as well. So I had a nice broad view of finance and knowledge of it that I was able to pretty much implement into everyday routines, which was really rewarding in itself.
Professor James, did you have something to add? Yeah.
Well, so I was just going to say, we highly encourage internships here at Krannert. I mean, especially in accounting, it's a great way to try out a job or a career or a different, tax versus audit versus other types of accounting, and just try it out and see how much you like it. And then also a lot of students in accounting end up getting full-time jobs through their internships. We have some great ways to get connected with employers for internships. We have really great career fairs in the fall. In fact, when you come just a couple weeks into the semester, that first semester, there's a big career fair. And then another career fair in the spring where employers come and you get the opportunity to go talk to them and find out about their internship opportunities, and then later on full-time opportunities when you're at that point. I think it's really easy here at Krannert to get in contact with the firms and learn about the types of internships that they have. And most everybody does an internship or two. And for the accounting students, I'd really like to recommend considering a spring internship. So lots of people like to do internships in the summer because they don't want to mess up their plan to graduate. We've developed our curriculum here at Krannert so that if you do a spring internship, you can take classes in the summer and you can still, it won't delay your graduation. And spring internships in accounting are good because that's the busy season in accounting, right? Tax and audit. And that's a chance for you to get to see what, the meat and potatoes of the business is. Furthermore, because most people like to do the summer internship, the spring ones are easier to get. And because it's busy season, the CPA firms need more people. So if you're coming into accounting, really strongly consider, from the beginning, thinking about a spring internship, when you get into that junior, senior year, when you're like at Kalei's level.
That's some great advice. Yeah.
Yeah, I can add in a little bit more. Krannert really helps students get internships Professor James mentioned the career fairs. A shout out for accounting majors. There's also a little public accounting career fair. So you can even get your own more personalized career fair in there. That's one of my favorites. There's like 20, 25 accounting firms that come out for it. So it's a little bit less intimidating, especially as a freshman. But I think between us, we all have gotten internships in different ways. Career fairs are a way that a lot of students get internships. That's how I got my internship for this upcoming summer. But Krannert also helps prepare you in other ways. If you want to just apply online to an internship with a company that maybe doesn't come out and recruit, we've got really great career offices. Andrew works in one of them. Krannert has another center for like career development and professional development, and they like help make sure your resume is ready, that you're ready for interviews, you're ready to get your cover letter out. And so that helped me get my internship after my freshman year, because I just applied online for it, but I had a rock solid resume after getting it destroyed with the one I brought into college that was not ready to send out to any company. And then also connection wise, the spring internship that I just completed, I got through a connection I had through a mentor at Krannert. And so there's a lot of different routes to get to internships, and Krannert really kind of prepares you for each way that you want to go.
Kalei, I'm going to ask Andrew in a minute to talk about his job at the Center for Career Opportunities, but you mentioned a mentor. Someone was asking about alumni support. Was your mentor an alum, or who was your mentor that helped you?
Yeah, the Purdue Accounting Association started a program of alumni mentors this last year. And so we had like a bunch of different, every like once a month, a group of different alumni mentors would come out and get matched with students, and you got to like meet with them and talk to them. And one of them worked for Crow, and he was like, hey, like, are you interested in an internship? And I was like, I would be. And so it was really a great way to go through that path. I also know that they're adding a program for sophomores where you get paired with an alumni mentor. And so that's also a really great opportunity. Purdue alumni love to help Purdue students. Like Mary said at the beginning, it's like a family here. And so when you can get connected to alumni, it's really helpful.
Awesome. So Andrew, while we're talking about internships and careers, I know that you work for the Center for Career Opportunities, which is a campus-wide organization. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do and how they help students and even Krannert students find internships and jobs?
For sure. So yeah, like Mary said, I work at the CCOs, which is what we call it. It's called the Center for Career Opportunities. And basically I serve as a peer consultant. So students will come in and make an appointment, and I'll help them with their cover letters, with their resumes. If they have an interview for an internship or a full-time job, we host mock interviews so that they can prepare for those interviews. Before the career fair, we open up our career closet. So students who don't have business professional attire, so any suits or suit jackets, things like that, students are able to rent those jackets and any kind of clothing for free. So that's something that a lot of students utilize before and during the career fair. And it's really broadened my perspective, just because as a Krannert student, I spend a lot of time in Krannert, and a lot of my friends are in Krannert. So, as a peer consultant, I'm able to kind of consult with students of all majors, of, students who are PhD students, who are graduate students, who are pursuing a lot of different things that I've never even heard of. So being a peer consultant has been really, really fun. One thing I do want to add about kind of navigating the internship process, as a freshman, when you come here, I strongly recommend students to go to the career fair, even if, a lot of the companies, I know they don't offer a lot of things for freshmen, but some do. So just go out there, get your name out there. It can be really intimidating with a lot of people, a lot of, it's really loud in there. But what I did was I just went in there, you just hope for the best. And I was able to connect with an individual from an accounting firm who was, we really hit it off having a conversation, and they had a freshman program for me that I was able to participate in. And, that's just something that I've been doing ever since. So definitely utilize those resources. Purdue is full of opportunities and resources. It's up to you to just utilize them and take advantage of those resources for you.
Thank you, Andrew. That is great advice. I'm seeing lots of just a variety of questions in the chat. I'll see if I can answer a few of them kind of quickly. There's one question about AP credit and how that comes into Purdue. Your best resource is to go to the admissions website, and there's a lot of information about how credit transfers into Purdue, and they have specifics on AP credit and the 3, 4, or 5 on a test, and how that's going to transfer into Purdue, is particularly for calculus. So please go to the admissions website and look for the AP credit information there. A question about how being in Krannert and the honors college impacts the courses you will take freshman year and beyond. So I don't think we have anybody on the panel who's in honors college, but basically you are required to take a few honors college credits, but many of the honors college requirements you can complete by taking honors sections of Krannert courses. So Professor Janes or Professor Facho, I don't know if either one of you teach honors sections in your courses.
I do not, but I do know that we do have some honors sections that are offered, for example, ones in investments management, possibly others. And so that option is certainly there.
Yeah. So I know that one of the required classes for the lower division is Econ 251. There is an honors section that you can take. So it's a required course. If you can take an honors section, that's going to help you complete both your Krannert requirement and your honors college requirement. We also have a coordinator at Krannert. Her name is Kara Putman, and she works with all of our honors college students within Krannert to make sure that they meet all of the requirements for their honors college degree. And she'll also help you with a research project, which is a component of earning that honors college degree. You can definitely contact Kara Putman. Maybe Megan or someone could put her email address in the chat. I know she's happy to talk with honors college students if you have any questions about that. Okay. Here's a very specific question. Are there upper division courses on mergers and acquisitions and or corporate finance?
Yes, we do have electives. So those are upper division classes. One is specifically about M&As, mergers and acquisitions. And so in those classes, students would investigate how to decide whether a prospective acquisition is a good deal from the perspective of an acquirer or from the perspective of the company being acquired, how to structure the transactions in terms of choosing to finance the acquisition by issuing stocks, or rather perhaps raising a bank debt and paying with cash and so forth. So we do have a class on that, which is a semester long. I think we also may be offering the class over a 7-week longer period, and I will come back on that in a second. And we do offer a lot of sections in corporate finance. Corporate finance and investment management are classes that get a lot of requests. They are quite key to students who want to specialize in finance. And so we are doing our best to make sure that we have enough offerings so that anybody who is interested has the opportunity and the ability to take those classes. Now, I mentioned the 7-week longer classes. So in the last few years, we have tried to be as flexible as possible, in part as a consequence of COVID, but also in anticipation of it. We started introducing some online classes. Those obviously offer students who want to take an internship the ability to take classes while they are not on campus, perhaps by listening to recordings online or taking classes in the evenings. And also we have offered, at least in finance, semester-long classes that were concentrated over a 7-week long period. For example, I offered such sections in my international finance class. So essentially every day we would meet twice, back to back. The course was very, very compressed, but it would allow people to get over with the class quite intensively and have a free time afterwards, which they can devote to a part-time job or a part-time internship and so forth.
Is that typically in the summertime or is that fall and spring as well?
Yeah, it's during the whole academic year. It's an experiment that we started maybe 3 years ago. It seems to have worked fine. For every class we do offer both the 7-week option, if present, as well as a traditional 15-week option. But we try to give options to the extent that we have a faculty available.
Dom, as a senior in finance, just curious if you had any favorite upper division finance classes that you have taken recently?
Yeah, funnily enough, and it seems like it's a popular one. I really did love corporate mergers and acquisitions. I mentioned a little earlier that I like the law, I like the legal aspects of a lot of things, and I felt like this class was a very healthy balance of law and finance. Specifically, it was very case driven. So every week we get a new case based on a merger that occurred or a made up merger or something like that, along with financial data, exhibits, possible trends, and we'd have to come up with our reasoning behind why we thought it was either a good move, why it was a bad move, potential strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, multiple different analysis chains. It was a lot of work. I'll preface it by saying that the final was very rigorous. It was 20 plus pages, but it made sure that you knew your stuff. So at the end of the day, if you knew it over the span of 2 or 3 days, it really wasn't that bad. So overall, I'd say corporate mergers and acquisitions was my favorite. Venture capital, close second. That one was also very interesting.
So I have a question that I do not know the answer to, but we'll see if either one of our faculty members has heard more than I have. Have you heard much about J-term, the possibility of that 4-week term in January, and where we're at on that?
I have not, and I was wondering that myself because back to the study abroad question, we've talked about the possibility if they do adopt the J term, and for those of you who aren't familiar with that, that they're talking about pushing back the start of the spring semester and putting this little mini term in between the fall and spring semester. But we've talked about doing study abroads during that J term, which could be very interesting. So I haven't heard. The Board of Regents, I think, is still considering it.
I have not heard anything either.
I have only seen what has been published in our internal communications, and I've also heard that our study abroad coordinator at Krannert is planning some study abroad programs for J-term. So I have to think that it is, maybe 80%, maybe 90% sure, not 100%, but they must be really leaning that way for her to take the time to plan those programs. So we'll have to wait for an official announcement, but we're all keeping our fingers crossed. Sounds like it could be a great opportunity for students to really take some additional coursework during those 4 weeks, or take an extended break, just kind of depending on what you need at that time. I want to jump back on a question that was asked about support from alumni. And Kalei, I know that you did a city trek to New York City where you actually met with some Krannert alumni. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that experience that you were involved in.
Yeah, so the Krannert Professional Development Center offers things called city treks. They take a group of students, there's usually like a focus to the trek, and they take them all to a city, meet with a bunch of different Krannert alum who work at big companies there, and get to like hear from their experience. And so sophomore year, I went to New York City with Krannert, and we met with some alumni who work at EY, the Fed, and a few big investment banks in New York City. And so it was a really great trip to get to kind of hear about how these Krannert alums got to be in this big city working at these companies, and like the advice they had for us. And so Krannert paid for it. It was a really great trip. I know they've also gone to like Washington, DC before. Before COVID, they were going to be going to Seattle, which got canceled, but hopefully they still have the plans in the works for that one day. And so they're really great opportunities to get to kind of connect with alumni, make those really strong relationships, so you can like get some advice on if you want to end up in a certain city.
Thanks,
would be
Kalei.
cool to work in Times Square at UI, that's for sure.
Professor Faccio, I don't know if you have been involved in this or not, but I know that there's a finance workshop that brings Krannert alumni usually back to campus, but it's gone virtual this year, but it's really interesting the variety of speakers that are involved in that workshop.
So I have not been involved, but I am somewhat familiar with it. I think Charlene Sullivan has been especially proactive in organizing the workshops and involving people who are Krannert, but are somewhat connected to give different perspectives on areas such as, for example, venture capital or perhaps investment management. Yeah. It has gone on for a while. So I am somewhat familiar with it, but not too much.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that there are such a variety of ways that students can connect with alumni. Kalei was talking about through the Accounting Association. I know we have this finance workshop. We have alumni mentors that are more established programs, but it seems like there are lots of different ways that you can plug into alumni networks through different organizations, through recruiters. So just
yeah,
really
I think
excited.
being a proactive is especially important. And so the alums don't necessarily come out to reach for you, but if you are proactive, a Krannert alum will be happy to hear from a Krannert student.
All right. All right. Here is a really interesting question. In general, what do we feel is the balance between theoretical versus practical learning in Krannert courses? Theory versus the applied.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something that I love to talk about. I talk about it on almost every single one of my tours. Basically, when it comes to theoretical versus applied, I like to use conceptual versus hard data as basically the same thing. But in finance specifically, there is that nice underlying like layer of conceptualization. So you learn the theories, you learn what the thoughts are, who proposed what, and where they can be applied. But the time when you're actually applying them is something that I actually really can't emphasize how important it is. I mentioned cases a little bit earlier when I was talking about corporate mergers and acquisitions, and cases like that hold true in essentially all of our upper division courses, at least in finance alone. You get these case packs and they hold anywhere from 9 to, I think I've seen like 16 cases. And throughout the course of the semester, the professor will burn through them and make sure the students are reading them, completing maybe a homework problem on one of them or something like that, just to make sure that everybody's staying up to date. But it's not until you get into those group projects where you're actually analyzing the cases, or maybe the professor gives you a 20-page document containing a bunch of financial informations and their balance sheets, their pro formas, and you have to go through and select basically key ratios, key things like that, and then form a report around those. So while there is that nice layer of conceptualization, the theoretical side, there's also this hard data, practical application that I feel like Purdue and Krannert do absolutely phenomenally. And that can also be attributed to our STEM background too.
Professor Janes or Professor Faccio, anything to add to that balance at Krannert? Dom did a nice job.
I mean, I try to be as practical as possible in my classes. I want the students to get out of the class being able to use what we learn even for personal decisions. At the same time, it's not the case that we can just make up stuff or criteria. So everything is at least in the back of the mind, grounded on theory. At least I can speak for myself.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about accounting, and I think finance as well, is that they're fairly applied fields to begin with. But you do need the balance of not only knowing what you're doing, but why you're doing it. And so, you know, in my classes especially, I try to have a mix of that. And, you know, for example, you know, in auditing, and this is going to be ramping up, Kalei, simulated audits, you know, where you're trying to apply the stuff that you learn to a sort of realistic sort of situation. Doing things like that. Again, you need to know why you're doing it, but you also need to know how you're doing it. And so, you know, we try to combine those things.
Yeah, I would say they could really go hand in hand. Like even in auditing, especially, that's true. But even like in your introductory, like accounting courses, you're like, this is why you would account for something in this way. And then this is how you're going to account for it. And so it's not just learning this journal entry you memorize. You have to understand why you're doing it, because accounting rules change and you have to be able to understand like the fundamental reasons why you need to do something. But you also need to be able to understand how to apply it. And so I feel like a lot of classes just kind of go hand in hand. You learn the theory, you learn how you apply the theory. Not just one or the other usually.
All right, so we're getting a question for our students. What other schools did you look at and what drew you to choose Krannert?
Yeah, I can go first. Mine was the furthest away. So if I get a little hazy, bear with me. It's been a little bit. In addition to the Krannert School of Management, I also looked into the Kalei School of Business at IU. I looked into the Tippy College of Business over at University of Iowa, and then a few other Big Ten schools, U of I, University of Wisconsin-Madison. But those were the main three that I considered: Cranny, love it, Kalei, Krannert, and Tippy. Sorry, that's a mouthful. But the reason why I really came to Krannert, I really came to Purdue, is I just felt as though I could really flourish here. It felt like home. From the second I walked under the arch, I realized that, yeah, this could definitely be my school. The brick looks great. I prefer brick over limestone any day of the week, and it's not even close. But the limestone still has its perks. But in addition to all that, all the the nice aesthetic feels and the fountains, I felt like the encouragement that Krannert gives its students to pursue things outside of the classroom was leaps and bounds superior than the other colleges. Krannert incentivizes, encourages just involvement in the student body in such a way that I truly have never seen on any other campus, whether it be a visit or I'm looking at law schools now. And even then, Krannert is superior than most of the law schools I'm looking at. Getting involved in case competitions, easy. Getting involved in clubs, easy. Getting involved in whatever you want to do to tailor your degree, Purdue and Krannert is the perfect school for doing so.
I have a little bit different of a college selection path. I'm originally from just outside of Seattle. And so when I was looking at colleges, I was kind of all over the map. Purdue was the only Big Ten school I looked at. I had a school in Washington, school in Oregon. I had one in California. I had one in New York, one in Massachusetts. I was kind of all over the place. But what it came down to was really considering like the things that I wanted in a school. I wanted to be at a school that had like that school spirit, alumni network, like where you like have that family feeling at a school with also those like strong academics and just like a lot of opportunities. And Krannert really kind of nails that one. You get that like small family connection within Krannert while also getting the access to all of these like Big Ten and Purdue opportunities. And then like Dom said, you get on campus and sometimes it's like, oh, this is where I'm going to be and this is home. And so that thing for me wasn't even considering other Big Ten schools and all of a sudden ended up in the Big Ten. So
Yeah, for me, my older sister is a year older than I am. So when I was a senior in high school, she was a freshman here. So I spent a lot of time at Purdue. So I was really familiar with the campus. When I was in high school, I kind of fell in love with the campus. I knew I wanted to come here, but I was also looking at the Kalei School of Business. Those were the two schools, like Krannert and Kalei. Those were the two schools that I was kind of trying to navigate between. And what really came down to was, for me, it was the diversity program. The diversity program here at Krannert is over 50 years old. And the one at IU is only a few, I think it's like 5 or 6 years old. So that itself just spoke volume. And that's something that was really important for me was, I wanted that opportunity and just being able to connect with the alumni as well. The alumni community was very huge here. That's something that I thought I could utilize and I have been able to utilize. So I feel like I made a wonderful decision. I don't think I would have the same opportunity at IU as I do here. So I definitely encourage you guys to kind of balance your options, make a pro and con list. That's another thing I did, and it really helped out.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to try to answer a couple of questions quickly that are coming up, and then I have a question for all of our panelists before we wrap up. A question about if our recording will be shared. Yes, we will put this on the website. It's going to take a little while because we need to get it closed captioned, but hopefully in a week or so, we'll have it available for people who were not able to attend so they can watch that. Is a Bachelor of Science finance degree considered a STEM degree? No. The last I heard, the 3 degrees at Krannert that are STEM, that are considered STEM, are economics, supply chain, and integrated business and engineering. Wanting to know if it's easy to switch your major within the Krannert School from finance to accounting. Very easy. So 6 of our majors are very easy to switch between them at Krannert. You basically just have to tell your advisor. That's all you have to do. We don't have limits on numbers. The only major that is different is the new integrated business and engineering major. It does have very specific requirements to transfer into that major. And it also will depend on if there is room in the program. So integrated business and engineering is the only one that I would encourage you to transfer into right now if you're interested in that major. Okay, and the other question I'll try to answer very quickly is it difficult to double major? So the most difficult thing about double majoring within Krannert, if you want to do 2 Krannert majors, is it's just going to require more classes. It's probably going to take more than 120 credit hours. So if you're bringing in any AP or dual credit, that's going to make it easier. Or if you're willing to do some summer school classes or take, some heavier loads, that might also be make it easier for you to do that within 4 years. So as we wrap up, we just have a few minutes left. We did have another question from a student about, let me see if I can find it really quickly. Basically, what do you wish you knew when you came in freshman year? Or I'll also say, twist that around a little bit. What advice do you have to give to our incoming freshmen? And I'm going to start with our professors. Professor Faccio, do you have any advice for incoming freshmen, students who are about to start their college years?
Well, ideally, it would be very useful if you knew what you want to do down the road. That would minimize dispersion and waste of efforts. At the same time, you're a younger person going to college, make sure you also work on something you enjoy. And in fact, as a finance faculty, I'm fortunate because I studied what I liked and I can do the work that I want to do. So the biggest mistake you can do is to get yourself in a tunnel where you end up doing something you hate. Avoid that, like the bubonic plague. So I guess a little bit of planning, I think what you want to do, maybe in 5 years, 10 years, and use that to guide your decisions.
Thank you. Professor James, do you have some advice for incoming freshmen?
So I agree with what Mara said about, putting some thought into what you want to do down the road, but kind of along that line, remember that you are young and you've got a lot of time. And so actually pretty much the same thing she said, if you start down a path and you think, oh, I don't like this, don't be afraid to change it. There are lots of things that you can explore and do. And your life will be happier, your career will be better if you find something that you like to do. So, do your best to plan things out, but make sure you do something that you like to do.
Well, and the really good news at Krannert is if you are coming in and are thinking about accounting, finance, economics, supply chain, marketing, general management, all 6 of those majors, it's very easy to change your major during your first 2 years and still be on track to graduate in 4 years. So it's nice to know you have those first couple of years to join some organizations, talk to professors, meet some of our alumni, and kind of get a good idea if that's the type of career path you would like. You do have some time, definitely, to figure it out. Dom, what advice do you have for freshmen?
For myself specifically, and all the parents out there, be sure to write this down. 13-track meal plan is more than enough. The unlimited at that point is just a waste of your 6-pack and like 50 or 60 pounds. Aside from that, and I told you I'd work it in, Mary, so well done on that. Aside from that, I would say stay organized, but also have fun. A lot of people understand that there's a hefty balance between work and play in college, and being able to do so is really hinging on you staying organized. So it's a great time to, go out and play catch for 2 hours with your friends. But if you have an exam the next day, obviously that's not a recipe for success. So being proactive, staying ahead on all your assignments is really key for a successful and happy student body experience.
Thank you, Dom. Kalei.
I would say make sure you take advantage of all the things that your school has to offer and get involved with those things. Purdue and any school that you might end up at is going to offer clubs and organizations. Get involved, try out a few clubs. If you don't like it, you can quit, but it's a great way to meet people, get connected. College is sometimes scary. There's a lot more people than probably at your high school. And it's a great way to get involved right at the beginning, is just to start getting involved in things and to take advantage of the resources that any school has to offer. going to the professional development center, seeing Andrew so he can make your resume a lot better before you start sending it out. Things like that are sometimes a little scary when you start school, but they are also worthwhile. So that'll be my recommendation. Try new things, get involved, ask for help when you need it, those kinds of things.
Dang. Well, Kalei took my answer. I was also going to say get involved, just because when I was in high school, I wasn't really involved aside from like extracurricular, like sports I did outside of school. So I do kind of regret not doing as much in high school, but I've kind of been able to compensate for that here in college, and I'm really involved. And that's something I do encourage you guys to do, is to try to get involved as soon as you can, just because not only will it broaden your friend group, you make a lot of friends, but it'll also be good. Like, for example, during the interview, when you're applying for an internship, you can talk about your club involvements and your leadership positions and like that. So definitely get involved, whether that be, I usually tell prospective students, find like one fun club and then also find one major related or professional club. And that'll give you kind of a good balance of experiences.
Thank you. Great advice from all of our panelists. I wanted to touch on one other thing that I'm seeing in the chat. Questions about what is fall semester going to be like at Purdue. So the latest news we have heard, looking at health conditions as they are right now, is that we think we will be almost back to normal in the fall. We are looking at in-person classes. The one caveat is possibly some of our very large lecture classes may still be hybrid, just depending on the number of people that it is safe to have in one space. We are anticipating that things will be even better than they are this semester, where we're doing a lot of in-person and hybrid learning. So really looking forward to a college experience that is much closer to normal in the fall. I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us tonight and for sharing their expertise and their experiences. Thank you so much for joining us. To all of our students who have joined us, we do have some additional panels coming up that cover the other majors. And if you're interested in those, I would encourage you to register and attend. But for now, this is good night from West Lafayette. Thank you for joining us, and boiler up.